Good day, warm welcome to this meditation session. Delighted that you can join, delighted that you're giving yourself this time to take care of yourself on the inside. And today's topic is about change. I suppose every topic is about change, but the leap or the jump required to do that. And yes, in many ways, it's a leap of faith, but the faith, of course, is in the self. So this leap of faith within the self that makes that change possible, that we're changing into the type of person we'd like to be, the type of world we'd like to sustain, all of these types of changes. Now, I don't know about you, but when I did track and field, way back in the Stone Age, we basically would have to do all sports. We didn't really specialize. I avoided long distance like the plague, but I did land up in sprint and things like long jump, a little high jump, and hurdles, which is also jumping. I particularly found hurdles fascinating. But I remember with long jump, for anyone who's done it, what's going to happen is you're going to run full throttle down this pathway, and then you actually have to hit a board that's at the edge of the pit. And from that one-footed launch, you go flying through the air and hopefully have a clean landing. And what always was fascinating was hitting that board. And many people who may be watching the sport aren't aware that if you don't hit the board, you're disqualified. If you try and play it safe and jump from behind the board, you're of course shortening your results. So you always want to hit the board just right to be able to get the best results possible. And I feel that has a lot to do with spirituality. That board is really that faith in the self and having to hit it just right, usually under very challenging situations, which long jump is. You're nervous beyond belief. So there's lots of, I don't know, difficulty, challenge internally, emotionally, mentally. But you still have to have such deep faith, such confidence to hit that board and go flying through the air. So let's see if we can find our inner board that we can hit in all circumstances. And to be honest, most of the challenges are going to come from within, that little voice of doubt, that little voice of marching in front of us all of our past mistakes. So leaving the self unconditionally is that board I need to hit to launch into honoring the best of the self, getting those best results. So let's begin by ensuring that we're seated comfortably. Seated is ideal. And so make sure you have a back support if that's required. And ideally a quiet space where you're not too likely to be interrupted. There is the invitation to experiment with eyes open in a natural way so you can integrate this into your day-to-day life. And it's always nice to begin by giving myself the time to create a foundation for my reflection, to make sure that my attention is completely in the moment, by giving myself permission for this time to put aside all the roles, responsibilities, any pressure of time. I am giving myself the gift of this window to really care for the self, deep reflection, freeing up my mind to start to turn inwards. Inwards, perhaps in a deeper way than I am usually reflecting. I will often think about day-to-day activities, even scenes and situations from the past or future, planning, learning. But I want to go far deeper in this moment. In some ways, it can feel like I'm walking through a forest with my mind. Every tree representing a thought and its feelings. Walking through it all, observing it all as I would in a forest, but focus on my destination. All the thoughts, all the feelings moving past me as I continue forward, deeper and deeper into my own inner world, and feeling it become more and more calm, more peaceful, simple, and even the trees are beginning to thin out, more uncluttered. And I finally arrive at a beautiful clearing at the center of my inner world where everything is clear. There's sunlight, there's warmth, an inviting space, a space I know is completely dedicated to nurturing the self. I sit myself, my attention in this beautiful, serene, very clear space in my inner world. A perfect place to reflect on the essence, the core of the self. I am aware that as I usually move through the day, I'm very focused on my activity, not the self, not the being, but the doing. Sometimes I might do well, and sometimes I might make mistakes. I become very sensitive to the results of my actions. My sense of worth, value, respect becomes conditional. Either I feel great, but in a somewhat fragile way. I could lose it at any moment. Or I start to lose faith in the self because I made a mistake. But sitting here now, not a human doing, but a being, I can begin to connect with a sense of my own value that's unconditional, independent of the activity, intrinsic, eternal. I am always of value. Yes, sometimes I do wonderful things, sometimes I make mistakes, but the value of the self is independent. I want to immerse myself in that unconditional experience of my innate beauty as a soul, as a being. It is essential to moving, honoring the best within myself. I am, of course, as a soul, life itself. There is nothing more valuable than life. Do I understand and accept how invaluable I am? Just as life itself, that opening of the heart allows me to start to recognize the innate specialities of the self, those qualities that make me, me. Diving into the richness of the self, nothing to do with what I'm doing, just the state of being. This experience is going to become my launch pad for jumping into change. Not to change into someone different, but really changing back into myself. Where the being, the beauty of the being, once again begins to drive the doing. Om Shanti.